My name is Jeffrey, and first of all, I want to acknowledge everyone here. Thomas, thank you so much. When we had the libation and we were listing the names, even when I was writing my story, I was amazed at how many relatives I'd actually forgotten. I didn't know their names, you know, I really didn't. And I had to stop and think about what kind of history I'm going to tell. And I remember my cousin's mother used to tell us when we were little, we were about 8 or 9 years old, they would tell us, you know, a totem doesn't always have to be like a totem pole. You know how they have the Native American totem pole that tells a story? A totem can be a list of stories about your history, if you remember, you know. And all cultures have a totem. And so that's how I view this project. And I want to thank you, Tom, for bringing that up. I think the first thing, based on also on we have to deal with racism. We have to look at it, we have to acknowledge it. If we don't, we're just ignorant to ourselves. My great-grandmother was the product of a rape. She looked almost white. And I remember her because she used to watch the baseball game with a magnifying glass. Remember those big old TVs? She used to sit about 4 inches from the TV with a magnifying glass. And she knew every player, but she had to have the magnifying glass to see it. Anyway, her story was she was the product of a rape. The owner of the plantation raped her mother. The plantation owner's wife knew he had done it, and she went and looked at the daughter, which was my great-grandmother, and said, oh yeah, that's him. I know that's him. You can see it's him all over there, you know. But she was very, very light. And so the owner said, well, we'll take the daughter and she can live with us. She doesn't have to, no one has to know that she's the product of a rape, that she has any black blood in her. We'll hide her. But her mother said, no, that's my daughter, I'll take her. So of course she was relegated to the other side of the tracks. And that's the beginning. And she had a brother. Her mother's mother had a brother. His name was Indian Joe. That's what they call him, you know, because he was part native. He ran away from the plantation and joined the natives. He used to come and eat dinner with a tomahawk, you know. That was just who he was. But anyway, I say that to say that that's part of a lineage that I remember, okay, from my father's side. My grandfather was an alcoholic. He worked on the trains and the buses in Detroit, Michigan. And gave birth, they had my father, who became a very successful. He was a single child, very spoiled. He became very, very successful in medical career, became a doctor. And then there was me. And I came along. And I can remember distinctly my first drink. They were having a party, a card. You know, they used to have bridge parties. Your parents would have all their friends over. And, you know, you kids would be in the kitchen. You're supposed to be watching TV and behaving. But, of course, you know, at 9 and 10 years old, I felt that I should be an adult. And so I should mix myself a drink of old granddad and Coke, just like the adults. So, you know what happened. An hour or two into the party, they got a call. Jeffrey's laying in the kitchen floor. He's thrown up and he's creating havoc. So that was the beginning of my career because, of course, I didn't learn then. I just thought I didn't do it right. So I continued on that was the introduction to my alcohol and drug abuse. But let's page forward. You know, I think we all have a similar story. I'm not going to try to make mine exclusive. It's just mine. And one of the things that happened was my first encounter with the police in the Midwest was we were in a car. Everybody was in a car, And we had dope in the car. There was weed, there was all kinds of dope. The girls had dope. There was about 5 or 6 of us, and the police ran up. And they stopped us, and they said, we're going to search each and every one of you. Of course, everybody's sweating bullets and crying and carrying on. And they said, look, we don't care. We're just looking for guns. They found all this dope, gave it back to us, and let us go. You know, it was at that time I began to realize that just because they got a police uniforms on doesn't mean that they're playing by the rules. You know, the rules do change depending on who you're dealing with. At any rate, I think the most important thing for me, I had several other encounters. I never went to the penitentiary, but I spent several days in jail, went to the county. I got swept up in the zebra. Remember the zebra thing? I used to stay right over there at Fillmore and Steiner. Walked out the house drunk, standing in front of my house, weaving and bobbing and carrying on. They took me to jail, right? Suspicion of being the zebra guy, okay? So I'm down at 850 Bryant. And back then they would keep you for 2 or 3 weeks if they could. So I was down at 850 Bryant. It was my first long term in any kind of penitentiary confinement situation. And they gave us a Thanksgiving dinner of leftovers from the military. So everybody got sick, right? Everybody got sick in the tour. So you imagine you're in a room like this, you know, it's about 20 different dudes, all walks of life, and you know how it is down there. They got one toilet, maybe another one, you know, it's a public toilet. You got to sit there and squat in front of everybody. Well, you got 20 dudes fighting for the toilet because everybody's sick, you know. At any rate, I say that to say that this was my introduction to what I didn't want to do. This was the beginning of my life, but I didn't stop. I didn't stop. I continued on with my drug of choice, which was cocaine. And I think the most important thing was that it no longer became the drug. It became the excitement of the cops and robbers. You know, I like playing around at 2 o'clock in the morning and, oh, they're not going to get me this time. Yeah, you run to the project, you run over here, and then they pull the car. You know, all that shit you see on TV, I was imagining I'm some superhero and I'm really gonna win. And I say all that to say that it was a blessing that I'm alive. I'm happy I'm here. That recovery has been good to me. Okay? You know, we're blessed that we're here and still alive and have an opportunity to save ourselves and someone else. Tom's giving me the high sign, so I'm going to have to get ready to get out of here. But I just wanted to share my story, my experience, and let you know that I'm very, very grateful to be here today. Thank you.